Good evening, Sam. Are you there?
Sir, good evening. Yes, I'm here. Shall we start?
Good evening, Sujata ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening. Happy to have you here, and let's
The
have
pleasure's mine.
small introductory sessions, and then we can.
Sir, shall I start? Sir?
Please.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to week 5 of the International Webinar Series on Emerging Trends in Humanities, organized by the Department of English, St. Joseph University, Dindivanam. Today's webinar, Indigenous Knowledge, Systems and Epistemic Justice, addresses an important and thought-provoking area that highlights the value of indigenous knowledge and the need for equitable recognition of diverse knowledge systems. We are privileged to have Dr. Sujata Menon, Associate Professor of English, Velu Institute of Technology, Velu, as our distinguished speaker. We extend our heartfelt welcome and sincere thanks to her for accepting our invitation and sharing her expertise with us. Welcome, ma'am. I also warmly welcome all the faculty members, research scholars, students, and participants who have joined us from various institutions. Your enthusiastic participation makes this webinar series meaningful and successful. I'm confident that today's session will be insightful, engaging, and intellectually enriching. Once again, on behalf of the management and the convener and the Department of English of St. Joseph University, Dindivanam, I welcome you all for this week 5 of our international webinar series. Now, to start with the proceedings, I request Dr. Selvin to introduce the speaker for today. Selvin, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. And I am really extremely happy to have Dr. Sujata Menon here with us this evening. And Dr. Sujata Menon is an Associate Professor of English at the School of Social Sciences and Languages, VIT Velo. She considers herself, I know, a diehard and passionate teacher. And she has been teaching for 30 years at the college and university levels. She has many publications to her credit and has conducted more than 90 workshops, webinars, and training programs. She's a storyteller and is deeply interested in oral storytelling, myth and mythopoeia, neurocognition and brain-based learning, gamification, criminal psychology, technology-enhanced language learning, and materials design. She won the Excellence Award for publications at Jasan University, right, in 2019, and the Gurukshetra Award, Excellence in Teaching, in 2021 and 2022 at Sastra University. In 2024, she edited a book titled Making Sense of Myth and Mythopoeia, a guide to analysis and interpretation. Ma'am, we welcome you, and I think the entire audience is expecting a powerful lecture from you. Thanks for your presence here, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ma'am.
Now I invite our resource person for today, Dr. Sujata Menon, to take over the session. Ma'am, the virtual podium is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I request the remaining people to mute their mics? Otherwise, we'll have an echo.
Ma'am, we have muted everyone's, ma'am. The control is with us, the hosts. Thank you.
So including yours, if you can mute.
Yes, we will do it.
Thank you. All right. So first thing, I'm really excited because this is my area of research. I'm very much into myth, folklore, and the indigenous knowledge system. So this is a real exciting moment for me. So to start with, how am I going to present? What is the overview of my presentation? So I will start off with what is indigenous? Who are the indigenous people? And next I will move on to what is episteme and what is epistemic justice? What is epistemic injustice? And then I will move on to those indigenous cultural practices where the avarna rules the varna. Can you see my slides?
Yes, ma'am, very much.
Thank you. So the first thing is what makes a group indigenous? So how do you classify a group as indigenous? So the first point is self-identification, meaning they have an identity which is distinct from the common mass identity. So self-identification, having a distinct identity which is different from the mass identity. The next is historical continuity. Now, this is a very powerful characteristic. Now, what do you mean by historical continuity? In historical continuity, this particular group has connections with a particular land, even during the pre-colonial period. So it is not post-colonial, but pre-colonial. This particular group has known culture, rituals, traditions, practices, all before the colonial practice. So that is historical identity. Next, you have special relationship with ancestral lands, meaning the pre-colonial ancient lands. So what is this special relationship? In most cases, they do not see the land or its inhabitants, the flora and fauna, for commercial purposes. They do not use it for commercial purposes. So they view it more with an eye of bonding. So there is more of a very healthy ecosystem involved in indigenous groups. So their culture is very different. For example, if you take the Irula tribe, they catch snakes only to extract their venom. And then they let them back into the forest. They are released into the forest. So this is their relationship with the flora and fauna, with the ecosystem itself in general. Distinctiveness. Now, the lady you see in the picture is called Pulluvati. And what she has in her hand, or what she's playing, is the Pulluvan Kudam. It has only a single string. She's using a stone, and with that stone, she strings the instrument. So this is about the Pulluvati. So their culture is distinct. It is different from that of the others. And mostly, when we're talking about indigenous knowledge systems, we are talking about a group that is not the majority group. It is not a predominant group. It is mostly a minority community. Maybe within the tribal groups section, they are predominant or whatever. But when you compare them with the general masses, they are less dominant. They are a minority group. Next, we move on to perpetuation. So how exactly do they maintain their culture? How do they retain their culture? How do they preserve their culture? So this is called perpetuation. If I can stop here for a minute, I can hear my own voice echoing. Can you give me a minute so that I can use my headset? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, you're not audible.
Okay. Somebody's got the
Yeah, this is perfect, ma'am.
yeah.
Okay.
Probably because somebody hasn't muted the mic. So I'm able to hear my own voice again.
Everybody else's mic is muted, ma'am, because I am having the control.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
So I hope this is clear so far. So what makes a group indigenous? This is it. So these are the points which make a group indigenous. So their connection with the roots. This is what makes a group indigenous. So now we move on to the term episteme. The root of the term epistemic. So who coined this term episteme? The earliest example is in Michel Foucault's The Order of Things, which came out in 1966. Now I want you to look at this definition very clearly. So what does it say? The conditions of possibility of all knowledge, meaning how is knowledge possibly conveyed? How is knowledge disseminated? So, what are the possible ways in which knowledge is shared? Knowledge is expressed. So, it can be expressed theoretically or it can be expressed practically through performance arts, for example. So, how is knowledge disseminated? And what are these conditions or situations in which knowledge is disseminated? This is called episteme. So, what is epistemic justice? So, as the name justice itself implies, as the term justice itself implies, number one, there is equality, egalitarianism. there is fairness, there is no prejudice, no bias. Okay, so while producing knowledge, whichever be the caste, whichever be the community, there is no bias, no prejudice. So while receiving the knowledge produced by such people, you treat them with absolute respect. That is epistemic justice. Such people have created something. It's not worth it. It won't be good. This is prejudice. This is bias without any prejudice, without any bias, and suppression of knowledge. Now, let me tell you, in some tribal communities, there are certain sacred books which can be read only by the high priest. There are certain shlokas, certain chants, certain mantras which can be recited only by a senior spiritual leader and passed on to another spiritual leader, his or her successor. So that becomes suppression of knowledge, knowledge only for a select few. So all this comes under epistemic justice. There is perfect logic behind every one of these. So this is epistemic justice. So you treat all people as bearing knowledge of a particular culture, of a particular ritual, of a particular practice, and you respect diverse knowledge systems, meaning, okay, this is my ritual, this is my religion, my culture. That is your religion, that is your practice, your ritual. Let me respect yours and you respect mine. So this is epistemic justice. Can I move on to the next slide? Now, when we talk about epistemic justice, there is also what is called epistemic injustice. Now, the earliest types of epistemic injustice were put forth by Miranda Fricker in 2007. Now, Miranda Fricker talks about two types of epistemic injustice. One is testimonial and the other is hermeneutical. Now, what is testimonial? Let me give you an example. Now, let's say there is a person from tribe X, okay, and I have some preconceived notions that people from tribe X are cheats, are liars, they're not to be trusted. Now, when somebody accuses a member from that tribe saying he or she has stolen something, immediately what do I say? I'm sure this person must have stolen. These people are known cheats, liars, thieves, whatever. So this is testimonial injustice, depriving the other person of the right to represent, depriving the other person of having knowledge of something. For example, let's say that person has knowledge of herbs. I say, that's good for nothing. Our allopathic medicine is much better. So you don't trust the person. You don't trust the knowledge the person has. You don't have any respect for the culture the person has. You have no respect for that person's rituals. All this is incredibility. You refuse to trust. This is testimonial injustice. Now, the next is hermeneutical injustice. The best example I can give you is what Marie Antoinette said during the French Revolution. When the poor appealed to her saying they do not have bread, she said, if you don't have bread, eat cakes. Now, it is not arrogance, it is ignorance. She was absolutely unaware. Of course, that's not a good quality in a queen, but she was absolutely ignorant about the plight of the poor. So, you don't even know what the other person is going through. You don't even know what problems the other person is facing. So, you will not be able to empathize, sympathize, or even basically understand. This is hermeneutical injustice. So these are the two types of injustices. So when you have epistemic justice, these two should not be there. If any of these is here, then it is epistemic injustice. Now that I've told you what is epistemic justice, what is epistemic injustice, who are the indigenous, I've told you all this. Now I'm taking cases from South India. Now I'm taking 3 cases. One is the case of the Irulas, who are known for their ethnobotanical or forest knowledge. Next, you have the Sarpantullal from Kerala. And next, you have the Buthukola from the Tulunadu of Karnataka. So let me start with the Irulas. Now, if you look at the image on the right, this is a picture or an image of the Irula women in the early days. You see their typical indigenous conditions, living in thatched huts. Now, this is a quite recent picture. Now, this picture itself illustrates what their basic profession or occupation is. So, when I deal with the Irula community, I will be talking about the areas that they inhabit, their chief occupation, and whatever indigenous knowledge systems they try to preserve. Now, I'll start with the occupation because you had the woman with a snake around her neck. Their basic occupation is snake catching. And why do they do that? To extract the venom from the snake. And once the venom is extracted, as I told you, the snake is released into the wild. They do not skin snakes for their skin. No commercialization is done. Even the venom, it is sold at nominal price to hospitals and other research centers. So snake catching is their prime occupation. Why? To extract venom. Next, you have honey gathering. They gather wild honey and they have different techniques for gathering honey. Next, you have rat hunting. Well, vegetarians may not like this, but they take rat meat. It is their staple diet. Mind you, not any rat, just like that. Because you have rats in sewers also, in gutters and sewers also. Not that. They take only those rats which occupy agricultural areas. Those rats which raid paddy fields or crops in general and which carry, all that grain to their holes. It is only those vegetarian rats that these people hunt. So this is their main work. So snake catching, honey gathering, and rat hunting. Now, what is the advantages of this? What knowledge do you have? Now, snake catching, it is done mostly at night. So you must imagine what skills they have to manage their way, to navigate their way in the forest. So they should also have sharp eyesight and whatever light support they have. Despite all that, they should have an eye for detail. They should sense any movement. They should know which creature is making that movement. They should catch a snake. They should make sure they've taken the right leaves to prevent the poison spreading to other parts of the body in case the snake bites. So all this comes into play. Knowledge of the ecosystem, knowledge of the reptile, what category it belongs to. Everything comes into play. Again, the rat hunting. Where exactly are rats found? Is that hole belonging to a rat or any other creature? So all this is important. So thorough knowledge of the ecosystem, that is very important. Now, what are the areas they inhabit? They inhabit other common areas also in Coimbatore and other places, but these are the two main areas, and also Ramanagar in Bangalore, which is also partly a forest area. About 10,000 people live there also. But mostly they are centered around the Nilgiri Mountains, Ooty, and the Attapati Valley in Palakkad. These are the two main areas where these people occupy. So Remember, since it's the Kurunji area, mountains surrounded by forests, a mixture of Kurunji and Mullai. If you look at the Tinai philosophy, so since they occupy such areas, they have absolute knowledge, thorough knowledge of the ecosystem. And mind you, their relationship with the environment is extremely, what do I say, symbiotic. They don't try to disturb the environment in any way. So they live in communion with the environment. Now, this is about their cultural preservation. They have a lot of knowledge concerning herbal medicine. And these days, people in biotechnology, biosciences are using their knowledge to, produce more medicines, organic medicines. Earlier, their knowledge was dismissed. They suffered epistemic injustice. Number one, they were not allowed into normal houses. Okay, so their rights were deprived. They were deprived of their basic rights. And nobody trusted their knowledge of medicine except those people who lived only in the villages. So now people are approaching them to learn more about their knowledge of medicines. What are the herbs that can be used for a snake bite? What are the herbs or the leaves of a plant that can be used for itching, for rashes, for burns? All of these. So this is one kind of cultural preservation that they are really into. Now, this is not something which others are imitating or taking over. This is unique to their culture. The Nattakallu. Nattakallu meaning planting a stone. So they have the image of their ancestors on each stone that is planted. For example, a person belonging to a particular family loses someone. So that their image is carved onto stone and they place the stone in a sacred place. So they worship these stones to show their respect for their ancestors. And usually they portray their ancestors in a very heroic manner. Now you see this image, you see a person battling a wild animal. So this is what they think about their ancestors. And mind you, the people who are not living in the forest areas of Nilgiris or Attapadi, they don't follow this practice. So you have a cultural loss taking place. So they adapt to newer cultures and they leave behind their original cultures. So these people who live in Nilgiris and Attapadi, they still retain their culture. Now here is one more piece of information about how indigenous knowledge systems are used to help people. I want you to go through this information. See, they don't have a formal education, but they travel all over the world to train snake catchers. And mind you, they use snake catching techniques as part of their indigenous knowledge. See? By the way, there's one more thing I want to tell you. Is there total epistemic justice now? As far as education is concerned, no. Because there must be some awareness about these people in our school textbooks or university textbooks. I carefully went through the NCERT and SCERT textbooks. In some SCERT textbooks in North and Central India, yes, there are some chapters in social science dedicated to certain tribes. But as far as South India is concerned, there is no book that provides information, textbook that provides information about the Irula tribes or any of the tribes. In SCERT, Kerala, in the 11th standard anthropology book, second chapter, in the appendix, there is a reference to the Todas in the Nilgiris region. And while mentioning the Todas, they mentioned there are also other tribes like the Badgas and the Irulas and all that. So there is no specific mention of the Irula tribe anywhere. So it's hope that at least, the books that come forth in future will include such people so that we have better awareness. So this is about the Irula tribe. Now I'll move on to the Sarpantullal. Now Sarpantullal. Tullal usually means to leap or to jump. Here it means dance. So the snake dance. So Sarpantullal. Where is this Sarpantullal held? Now it is mostly held at ancestral homes, which we call Tarvadu. And sometimes it is also held in temples where the snake god is worshipped, along with the Sarpa Yakshi and the Naga Yakshi. And mind you, if the Pullavans are going to draw patterns in huge temples, each day it will cost lakhs of rupees. So, who are the Pullavans and the Pullavatis? Now, please remember, I told you about the Avarna. Now, let me put it in very simple terms. As per the text which talks about social stratification, or according to me, social discrimination, the Manusmriti. Now, in the Manusmriti, the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the OBC, the Shudra, okay, they all come under the Varnashrama. The fifth category, according to the Manusmriti, is the Avarna. According to Manu, they don't come under the Varnashrama, they are outside the Varnashrama. This is what the Manusmriti said, which is a matter of great controversy. Personally, if you ask me, I don't agree with the book which deals with such discrimination, whatever be the logic. So, the Avarna, if you have the Dalits and the Adivasis or the tribes, they are considered the Avarna. But if you look at the Irulas now, they are respected now for their ethnobotanical knowledge. So it is like the Avarna writing back, like you say the empire writes back, it's the Avarna writes back. So that is one example. Now look at the Sarpantullal. The Pulluvan belongs to the Dalit category. But regarding the Sarpantullal, you do not have the Brahminical priest performing the main rituals. The main rituals are performed only by the Pulluvan and the Pulluvati. The female is called the Pulluvati. So let us look at the history of the mythological study of the Pulluvan and the Pulluvati. So as per the mythological perspective, the story of the Pulluvans or the origin of the Pulluvans starts from the Mahabharata. Okay. So within Puranic lore or epic lore, the Pulluvans have their own oral tradition. According to them, in Kandava Prastha of the Mahabharata, when the Kandava forest is burnt, many snakes, are burnt to death because of Agni. There is a snake that is saved by a girl. The girl puts the snake in her pot and thereby saves it from the fire. And she even applies medicines on it and heals it. So the snake blesses the girl. Some say it was Takshaka, the king of snakes himself. Some say it was a divine serpent who blessed the girl. So he blessed the pot. He said, this was the pot that you used to save me. So may this pot become musical. And he blesses her clan. He says, may you people sing songs. May you be my true worshippers. And he also gifts the girl the veena, the Pulluvan veena. So let us look at the terminology in the Pulluvan's indigenous knowledge system. Now what you see on the left is the Pulluvan Kudam. Okay, it has a single string and you use either cymbals or a stone to string it. Next you have the kalam. Below the kudam you have the kalam. We say kolam, they say kalam. Okay, and there you have 8-headed serpents, meaning you have 8 heads of serpents if you count. The more the number of heads for the serpents, the greater the price. Okay, next you have the tullal. On the right hand side you have the tullal. The women belonging to the family in which the tullal is conducted will sit in the kalam. According to tradition, they go into a trance and they are supposed to wipe out the kalam by moving. If they don't wipe out the kalam, it means the snake gods are not happy with you. They are supposed to dissolve the kalam. Only then it means they are happy. And you also have the Pulluvan Veena. So please remember, whatever powders are used to make this kalam, they are purely organic. No chemicals, no synthetic colors or whatever used. And it's very expensive also. Earlier, these people were not considered so important. Now they are very important. Without them, the Sarpa Tullal does not take place. Even in Nambudri families, the Kerala Brahmin families, the Nambudri families, who consider themselves the top caste of Brahmins, even in their families, they have a shrine, mostly. The priest comes in the morning, the Tirumeni, as you call, comes in the morning, performs the puja and goes away. Then it is entirely the Pulluvan and his team who take over. The Pulluvan, Pulluvati, you have quite a number of them taking over. And each kalam is very expensive to draw one kalam because we have a snake shrine at home. Most houses have. So at my native place, Deshamangalam, we have the snake shrine. So we have the Tullal every year. Between the months of May and June, we have the Tullal. So per kalam on one day, usually it starts at night and goes on till early dawn. So 2 columns are drawn and dissolved. Each column, to draw each column, costs about 37,500 rupees. So per day you will spend at least 75,000 to a lakh, which is shared among the members of the family. So this is how it is. So this is a form of worship. You may consider it folk religion, but this is a form of symbolic worship because the snake is considered the symbol of fertility as far as Eastern mythologies are concerned. So this is how it is. And who are the snake deities usually worshipped at home? You have Anjana Mani Nagam and the Mani Nagam. Anjana Mani. Anjanam meaning a black stone. So Anjana Mani Nagam, the snake with the black stone. Mani Nagam, the snake with the Nagmani. So Anjana Mani Nagam, people who practice Tantra, Mantra, they worship the Anjana Mani Nagam. They are sisters. And Mani Nagam, the snake with the Nagamani who grants Lakshmi Kadaksh. You know, she gives you all peace and prosperity. This is what is believed. So this is part of the Pullu and Pulluvati culture. So they have completely taken over the snake worship. So they are no longer discriminated, they are no longer cast aside, they form a very important role. They play a pivotal role in snake worship. So this is their knowledge system, how they draw the column, what rituals they perform. All this is part of the indigenous knowledge system. And why are these sarpa covers or the snake groves maintained? Why? Now, in the beginning of the 19th century, as you can see here, there were more than 30,000 groves in Kerala. This is the Kerala Forest Department's report as of 2019. Now, I believe there's a slight increase. The report hasn't come out. As of 2026, I believe there are more than 2,000 groves right now because of the awareness among people. So, what is the reason for the decline in groves? Deforestation. You have man-made or man-created, man-induced forest fires. Loss of faith. Because with pulp culture coming in, people are ashamed to say that they trust such things. They believe in such things. Urbanization, no place to conduct such elaborate puja. So all these are the reasons. But why this sacred ecology? Why is Sarpakava a part of the sacred ecology? How does it influence the ecosystem? Number one, wherever you have the Sarpakava, you can't cut down trees. Now you have the Sarna Puja or the Sarna groves. You have it in Mayurganj, you have it in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, in many other places, even in East Bengal and West Bengal. Okay? You have the Sarna groves, like the Kaava, you have the groves. And there the sun god is worshipped as a formless god. And there you can't cut down the sal tree because they are sacred to the sun god. And there also you have suppression of knowledge. There are certain areas where women can't enter. Why? Because the sun god represents masculine energy. So only men go beyond a point. They don't want the opposite energy or the feminine energy to enter. That is their logic. So why is this Sarpakava related to sacred ecology? Number one, you don't cut down trees. The biome, the biological diversity is undisturbed. So whatever plant varieties, lichen varieties, ferns, moss, whatever, they all thrive there and you have a wide variety of flora and also animal or insect species there. So that is what is important. So now we understood about the Irula indigenous knowledge system. We know about the Pulluvan and the Pulluvati. Now next we move on to the Bhutakola. Now I first want you to look at the name of this book. This was written in 1894. Okay? And I want you to look at the title. The Devil Worship of the Tulwas. Why? Why is it called devil worship? See, that's a very colonial term. Why? Devil worship. Bhuta Kola. So the word Bhuta means spirit. In some languages, it also means demon. So the Englishman misunderstood this meaning and he titled it the devil worship. But it's not devil, it's the guardian nature deities. So who are the tribes, the Dalit tribes or the Adivasi tribes who are performing this? The Pambada, Parava and the Nalke. So these are the three tribes of Tulunadu who perform the Bhutakola. And who are the predominant deities? Now on the left corner you have Panjurli, who is a form of Varaha, the wild boar. The one who is on 4 is Pili Chandi, like we say Puli for tiger or Vyagra for tiger. Puli Chandi, we say. So they say Pili Chandi or Pili Chamundi. Now that Sanskritization also comes into play. Some people have started saying Vyagra Chamundi because Vyagra is a Sanskrit term. Then you have Nandigonda. And then you have Guliga, the fierce deity. See, that is why the makeup also suggests fierceness. So, what kind of epistemic justice is offered here? These people, even before the Brahminical arrival, had gone on with these practices. When the caste system was introduced, the higher castes or the upper castes or the privileged castes could not do anything to remove their folk practices. See, all these, whether it is Sarpandolan, even the Irula dance of death, when somebody dies, they have a dance. It is not to be seen as, come on, somebody's dead and they are dead and these people are dancing. No, no. It is a dance which suggests that every death is a form of revival. Where there is death on one hand, a new life is born on the other hand. The ever-changing cycle of life and death. So this is what it means. So all these are agricultural practices, fertility practices, practices that denote the connection between human beings and the world of nature. So that is the whole idea behind the indigenous knowledge systems. So I will stop here so that I can allow you to ask me a lot of questions. Thank you very much for listening so patiently to me. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Dear participants, we will be enabling typing in the chat. You can type your questions in the chat. Sam, I think I have enabled the chat. Please.
Yes, sir. And also they can unmute also, sir.
Yeah, they can unmute also. You can interact with ma'am directly. Or if you want to type your chat, please do.
Dear participants, if you have any questions or interactions,
Yeah, let's give them 1 or 2 minutes.
you can ask.
We have enabled typing in chat now. I think they will be slowly they started typing.
Okay, that's a good question. Madam, can you explain why was the forest deliberately set on fire? The forest was set on fire according to the Kandava Prastha. Because Agni, after receiving a lot of ghee and all other offerings in yagas, lost his brightness. And so he was told that only if he consumes the Kandava forest with all its inhabitants, he will regain his luster. So he approached Krishna and Arjuna for it. And they helped him. But there are others who say only because such biodiversity was destroyed. The Pandavas were never happy in their new home, Indraprastha. I hope I've answered your question. Now, not all indigenous people enjoy tribal status. Some of them, they may occupy a very prominent position in society also. But mostly, when you say indigenous, they are a minority. They don't have to necessarily be tribes, but they will definitely be a minority. Okay, how is IKS beneficial for finding the real truth which exists in the current time, but not applicable in the same way? See, for that matter, not just indigenous knowledge, any knowledge, after a point of time, it undergoes a state of flux. That is why our books are specimens that keep telling us this is how the world came into being. This is how our ancestors were respected in those days. Because just as language is in a state of flux, culture is in a state of flux, everything is in a state of flux. All these customs, rituals, traditions undergo change. Now, earlier, marriages used to take place, not just Brahmin marriages. Most marriages used to take place for 3 days. Why? Because when they took place in villages, everybody came in to help. In those days, they had to grind, they had to pound paddy, they had to use only manual equipment, not automatic equipment. Everybody joined in. So, in those days, things were possible. These days, are the same rituals continuing? Only 1/10 of those. Why? Because times have changed. We don't have the time. Our work pressure is such that we can't afford to take too much of leave. There are so many things. So, to an extent, you can understand what existed before. See, for that matter, not just IKS, any religion, any culture, if you read the foundational books, you will understand how the world came into being, what were their thoughts, their opinions, etc.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
How to build a bridge between indigenous knowledge and modern scientific approach. That is very good. See, how to build a bridge. First of all, you should learn to respect other cultures and other traditions. Nobody is asking you to convert. People once asked me, are you suggesting proselytization? I said, no, I'm never in favor of proselytization. So I'm not asking anyone to convert. I'm only asking you to be tolerant, be broad-minded towards other cultures, other religions, other indigenous ways, to understand the logic behind their myths, their folk tales, their cultural practices, their rituals, their knowledge of medicine, or their knowledge of any art, even if it's their paintings. So, what is the benefit that modern society has on account of this? Does it help in promoting mental well-being, spiritual well-being, or does it help in better interpersonal relationships? So I think that approach would always help. Good question. Okay, ma'am, could you please point out some major contemporary issues of the tribal knowledge system? The first thing they face is the pulp culture. We consider it a matter of pride to adopt pulp culture, that all these sounds very outdated, backward, and we are ashamed to accept or acknowledge such cultures. And even now, the problem that arises is we are looking at it as a kind of fashion. We are reading it or we are studying it as a kind of fashion. We really need to read it with passion, not as fashion. If that is there, if we really can empathize, if we really can look at things from that point of view, it will definitely be worthwhile. IKS will definitely be worthwhile. I'm not saying don't, turn down scientific inventions or discoveries. Please try to accept both. See, for example, I am a staunch follower of Ayurvedic medicine, but I also know there are certain areas where Ayurvedic medicine cannot offer you instant results. For example, you're in deep pain. At that time, Ayurvedic medicines take a longer time to heal. In that case, I will only have to go to allopathy. I must draw a line there. That is what is important. Every culture has its origins in mythology. Mythology is not just a set of tall tales. As Carl Jung said, it is an archetype of the unconscious. So Not just indigenous culture, all cultures are steeped in mythology. It's just that some cultures don't accept it after a point of time. That's how it is. I missed a part. Please, can you repeat? You mean about the Pulluvan and the Pulluvarti? Is that what you're trying to say? Dalit theory talks about hegemonization, marginalization. The indigenous systems talk about the significance of a particular culture, which, despite being Dalit or Adivasi or whatever, still thrives, still has its own significance. Dalit theory talks more about the issues related to caste and marginalization, discrimination on account of this. Indigenous systems talk about how these people are still able to rear their head high despite their caste status.
Ma'am, good evening.
Good
Am I
evening, sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
It was a beautiful presentation of the indigenous knowledge. And one of the questions when you answered, you said these indigenous people are minorities. But the policy makers today do not use the word minorities, though it is that word minority is guaranteed in the Constitution 31 that minorities have every right to do everything they hear. But the present policy makers, especially NEP 2020, we don't get that word minorities.
Minority.
Shall we say then, what is the use of equity and inclusiveness when you do not use the word minorities in a policy?
I will answer this differently. Now, when I say minority, I'm only talking about numbers. I'm not talking about their status. I'm not talking about their less privileged status. So, my use of the word minority did not refer to their caste status. The NEP referred to it definitely that way, that we should not use it to discriminate anybody that way.
Now, my question is, no, they talk about that inclusiveness and the equity for education and all that fine. But as I am representing the minorities in Tamil Nadu, as the chairperson of the consortium, I am really disturbed when that is not there. So every time when there are some problems, in fact in Viksit Bharat and all that, we have to fight very deeply to establish our rights. From the margin to the center, we really find it very difficult to come back to the center. Don't
This
you
is
feel
a
so bad?
fresh insight. In fact, I should sit with you and should gain more insights in this matter.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for that.
No, I should thank you also because you've given me a very fresh insight about this.
Thank
you. Ma'am, I have a question. This is Selwyn. I think Selwyn.
I have a few more questions. Does the Adivasi tribe still continues? Well, it depends. The Badaga community, the Kasabairulas, they all still maintain their cultures. And in Karnataka, you have the Nagamandala, the Degabali and all that. You also have a Kanyanattam as they call it, where you have the indigenous tribes of the forest, worshipping snakes. You have clay pots made, and you have images of hooded serpents on the pot. There can be any number of hoods there, starting from with 1 and going up to even 11. So their rituals are not very famous because they prefer to stay pretty internal. So there are many tribes continuing to practice their culture. And as I told you about the Irulas themselves, some of them who have moved to other places, they don't follow much of their cultural practices.
Ma'am, I have a question to you. This is
Yes, sir.
Selvin.
Yes,
See,
sir.
it was an excellent presentation, and I really appreciate you as always. My
Thank you.
first question is how to identify cultural appropriation of indigenous systems, because when we are in a post-colonial state, and there are a lot of indigenous systems available in different pockets of India. If we have to take the power dynamics and the biopolitics, keeping that in mind, if I have to consider the mass, when I say mass, the indigenous people as mass and the elite and upper caste as the ruling class, what happens here is maybe I have to use Agamben here and mention the mass is the Zoe and the elite is the bios. If you have to bring the Foucauldian biopolitics and power dynamics, there is if there is an exchange of cultural appropriation, that's okay. But there is an uneven extraction of cultural artifacts and cultural ideas, and the ruling class, if it is be a higher caste or higher class or ruling class or elite, whoever it might be, what happens is there is an exploitation of indigenous systems without consent and stripping elements of their sacred or traditional context. There is no consent, or neither consent nor credit. I consider this as a cultural exploitation and a cultural misappropriation that's happening in our country. See, now everyone is talking about a lot of indigenous stuff. I want to bring the Virginia Carcass essay, right? What is a tribe? Maybe she writes all the indigenous peoples are tribes, and see, in fact, that the list we created, the schedule the Britishers created, that itself shows the power in the power dynamics, or maybe the wrong understanding or misunderstanding or misreading. Actually, now what's happening is the ruling class is banking on this misunderstanding, and they are misappropriating a lot of cultures into converging into one useful dynamics with which they can control the entire mass. What is your opinion on this?
I'll tell you one thing, sir. I fully agree with you. I cannot overgeneralize, but there are certain situations where, to date, the lesser privileged are exploited. And these days, as I told you, it has become a fashion. Now, for example, in various institutions, during culturals, they imitate all these cultural practices of indigenous tribes. They think it's very artistic, aesthetic, without
Right.
even understanding the true meaning. So what happens is, as you rightly said, there is an appropriation. Later on, the meaning itself of that particular dance or music or that particular ritual or practice undergoes a total change.
Correct,
So
ma'am.
there must be proper awareness given. I fully endorse your point, sir. There is cultural appropriation. I don't deny it at all. And that comes because there are not enough literatures to bring about awareness, cultural awareness in students.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just check. There are a lot of questions. Okay, somebody had asked about the Kandava Prasad. It is Agni who loses his luster. So he approaches Krishna and Arjuna to help in burning the forest. That is why the Kandava forest is burnt. Regarding the snake goddess, the snake god, a snake is fully burnt, and a girl, a Pullua girl, puts the snake in her pot. So when the snake is put in her pot, she also applies medicines to it. The snake is healed, and being a divine serpent, he blesses the girl. Since he was put in a pot, he blesses the pot and he says, may it become musical. And he gives the girl the veena with a single string. And he says, may your community of people be my truthful worshippers. So, snake worship becomes part of the Pulluvati tradition. I hope I've answered your question. Somebody said they missed. Okay. Now you have made a statement about the Odian. The Odians who practice the Odividya. It is believed that they are followers or they are worshippers of Chatan. So the Odividya is part of the Chatan Seva. And there are also myths and legends which say that it is from the fetus. They sometimes kill pregnant women and they cut the fetus open, and with the help of that fetus, they make the Pilla Tailam. And it is this Pilla Tailam which is used for the Odividya, shape shifting. The Odian is a shape shifter, can change to different forms. But some say that you can identify an Odian. It's part of Kerala's folklore. You can identify an Odian who turns into a dog or a bull because they have red eyes and they don't look like normal animals. So you will know that they're shapeshifters. So we have very less information about the Odians and their Odividya. Well, what are the hindrances that the tribes face? Is their knowledge passed on orally or how was it preserved? These days, because digitization has come into play, a lot of information is digitized and it is also passed on orally. But I feel that we should have more of awareness programs on all this. It is not enough if we just have books or digitized archives. Students must be given a mandatory, session on various cultures. They should learn to respect other cultures, understand their significance. According to the myths, yes, snakes can be shapeshifters. Don't you have the case of the Ichadari Sarpa? Yes, there are myths of the snakes shifting their forms. It is believed even Takshaka, the king of the snakes, shifted his shape to become a small worm, and that is how he killed Parikshit. Well, in aspects of medicines and ecology, I strongly believe in medicinal herbs. My father was a researcher in Ayurveda. He was quite versed in Ashtanga Hridaya and all those textbooks on Ayurveda. So he was crazy about having plants at home. We used to say, "Oh, we are getting bitten by mosquitoes and all that." He used to say, "You idiots have no sense. Do you know the importance of these medicines?" So I fully know because twice or thrice when I was stung by an insect and when my hand got swollen, he ground some medicines together and it became all right when he applied it. Well, yes, African culture. See, African culture, definitely like Indian culture, originally believed in polytheism before the arrival of Christianity. So you will have a lot of their culture intersecting with ours. There are a lot of common points. But unlike our culture, their culture has more of tricksters, like Anansi the spider. So you have a lot to do with the local medicine, the shamanic rituals, and all that. So I think there is a lot in common. Have I answered all your questions? Why do the tribes live in the forest? Will you please explain? Okay. Now, there is a story in the Vedas behind this. It is believed that there was a very wicked king called Vena. When the sages approached Vena, okay, this is Vedic. When the sages approached Vena for help, for financial help, and also help to conduct the yaga, Vena spoke very badly and he treated them with a lot of disrespect. I believe the sages used their powers and they killed him. They put him to death. And then, because they believed that something good will also come out of him, they chanted their mantras. First, what came out of him was a dwarfish creature, dark dwarfish creature. So the sages looked at him and said, go to the forest and live in the forest. So, Nishada, the forest dwellers. This is what the Veda says about the forest dwellers. And then a brighter form came. That was Prithu. He was a great king. And because he convinced the earth to give her yield to humanity, she is called Prithvi. So if you look at why do the tribes live in the forest, it all starts with Nishada in the Vedic lore. But the tribes lived in the forest because before nature, before culture, it was nature. And nature meant the non-agrarian setup. So forest culture was there. That is why the tribes are the original children of the forest. And they prefer to do this. Well, there are many books on indigenous knowledge system, but not many offer frameworks. Let me be very frank. I looked it up while preparing so that I can present a framework and apply certain practices or rituals to that particular framework. So far, I did not come across any particular framework because I'm a framework freak. Even with my scholars, if they say they want to write a paper, the first thing I'll say is, do you have a theory or a framework? So I couldn't find even a single framework on this. Okay, kindly once again show the slide about indigenous and epistemic. Okay, fine. 1 second. Okay, Nandita, I said the tribes existed even before that. The Vedic period brought their interpretation. See, the people had already existed. When the Vedic people came, they brought their interpretations. It's not that it's the ultimate truth. These people had existed even prior to this. Why? Even if you look at the Ramayana, we talk about the Asuras who lived in the forests. What if they were not referring to the Asuras? It was just a hyperbolic description of forest dwellers who were against the rishis because they were starting fires in the forest, meaning in the form of a yaga. They were afraid that the yaga would lead to a forest fire, spoil their forest. Got it? So each one brings its interpretation. I'm only telling you there is a Vedic interpretation to this. That's all. Okay, somebody wanted me to show the slide. On Yes, it is a knowledge system. It is a indigenous knowledge is a knowledge system. See, that is why I spoke about demonization. For example, in Oriental mythology, the snake is always considered a symbol of fertility. Whether you look at the Naga of Thailand or the white snakes or the Shweta Naga of our own culture, it is considered a symbol of fertility. Even the Yakshi originally is a symbol of fertility. Later on, we don't know how the demonization of the Yakshi came about. So there is demonization. That's why regarding the Bhuta Kola, I told you about the title of the book. Of course, they have resilience and will to live. Definitely. Yes, I wanted to tell you one form of epistemic justice is the media. For example, in films also, Kantara, through Kantara, you came to know about the Bhuta Kola. Otherwise, you wouldn't have known about the Bhuta Kola. Have I left out anybody's question?
I think you answered all the questions, ma'am.
Thank you.
So you batted all the questions, and it was sixers of all six balls. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm getting direct calls that it was a wonderful and you're rocking. And my friends are saying that, and it was a great pleasure, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sam?
Yes, sir. Dear ma'am, thank you for the wonderful session and for taking your time and answering all the questions. To formally conclude the session, I request our convener, Dr. Selvan, to propose the word of thanks for today. Sir, over to you.
Yeah. Tonight, we had a wonderful lecture on indigenous knowledge systems. And at the outset, I would like to share my sincere gratitude to our founder father, Reverend J.E. Arulraj, for allowing us to conduct these 15 webinars in a series on emerging humanities. And I would love to thank our managing trustee, Dr. Jnana Selvam, who's also present here, and she's also enjoying the lecture. She only shared a direct message to me that the lecture was very lovely. And I want to share my sincere thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. V. Subbiya Bharati, for his guidance and support in conducting this event. And my sincere thanks goes to Dr. G.M. Joseph Dunstan, who is a mentor, guide, and friend, and the logistics champion of this webinar series. And I would love to convey my sincere thanks to all the conveners. There is no one convener here. Sam Surya, Narmada, Ilandarayan, and other supporting personalities, especially Mr. Kingsley, who is behind this conduct of Zoom preparations and everything. And finally, and my wholehearted thanks goes to Dr. Sujata Menon for her wonderful lecture, and with a big thanks to all the participants here who have really spent 5 weeks with us. And there are going to be 10 more weeks. And thank you, everyone. Have a great night today and have a great weekend. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you, dear
Can I
sir.
sign off?
Yes.
Yeah, you may sign out, ma'am.
Thank
we
you
might
so
have
much
some...
to every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear sir.
Sam, if you want to give some any instructions to the
regarding
participants
certificate, sir.
regarding feedback, you may.
Sir, yes.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, you may sign off, ma'am. Look, Sam, over to you.
Yes, sir. Dear participants, please check your inboxes for your certificates of week 1, 2, 3. Certificate for week 4 will be posted shortly. And if you have not got your certificates in your inbox, please check your spam box also. If not, do contact us and we'll be able to sort it out for you. Thank you, dear participants. The feedback link will be active for another half an hour and will be closed automatically. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Sir, can we close the meeting, sir? Sir?
Sam, what's up? Sam, can we close the
Sir,
meeting?
sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can close the meeting, sir. You have the right, sir.
Yeah, I will